Okay, everybody, welcome to the Precede Proceed lecture. Uh, this is a community-oriented participatory model for creating successful community health promotion intervention. So this gives you a framework within which to work to organize and plan and then implement and then evaluate and measure your health promotion community projects. So Precede has 5 phases: social diagnosis, epidemiological diagnosis, behavioral and environmental diagnosis, educational and organizational, as well as administrative and policy. Proceed has 4 phases: the implementation, and then the 3 phases of evaluation: process, impact, and outcome. So let's talk about all of them here in a minute. So the assumptions behind this model, and interestingly, when we talked about behavior change theory, we were talking about how very often individuals who would benefit from changing behavior are not in a place, they're not in the action stage of behavior change, and so often they get missed. And so this whole idea of a project being participatory is hugely important. It makes sense, right, that we're trying to get people involved with changing some sort of behavior, and so the whole idea of uh, getting our subjects or individuals involved makes all the difference in the world. Um, and so, we need to understand that we're looking at an individual in the context of their community. So, if we're trying to get somebody to stop smoking or start exercising, these things don't happen in a vacuum. And so, as you learned with the stages of behavior change from the trans theoretical model of behavior change, these stages really are important, and other people are very, very often involved. Either the individual is adding new people to influence them in their activity, or they are looking to their teammates or their co-workers for support and to learn from them and so forth. It's not different from all of you being in a DPT cohort. Yeah, you're all getting your individual grades, and yet you see how much the participation of all of your uh, peers and colleagues really add to and are to the whole process and are so necessary for all of you. And of course, so much of what we're talking about are quality of life issues. Health itself is made of so many factors. We talked about this in class when Jake very wisely indicated that wellness has many facets, many areas and categories. And so that's indeed true whether you're talking about health or wellness. So, why use Precede Proceed? How is it helpful? It really gives you a structure. It provides the ability to analyze and evaluate your process. Um, and as we talked about, a lot of these types of projects are done on very large scale scenarios where it'll be an entire corporation, or there may be a city of Goodyear uh, project to try and increase activity within the city. And so often these are a much larger scale than what we will be doing for our purposes. But regardless, this Precede Proceed model allows for all of that. Huge scale or smaller scale projects. It provides that framework that is very helpful. So we'll go through the phases and talk about how kind of what makes up each phase. So the phase one, the social diagnosis, is basically the needs assessment, and I talked about this in the kind of the product outline or project outline or summary recorded lecture. So we're going to look at a group of workers, or we're going to look at a group of athletes, or whatever it may be, and try to find out what it is they need and want. So, uh, as I said in the other recorded lecture, you will make some assumptions here, drawing from your knowledge. If you're dealing with a group of construction workers or movers or teachers, I know those are 3 that we brought up in class, or if you're looking at a group of athletes, you as physical therapy graduate students will have a lot of insight before you even contact your subjects about what the needs likely will be. And so that will help you as you're putting together your needs assessment questionnaire. And as indicated, I will have some examples of those posted under the course resources. So whenever you do start moving forward with your project, you'll have those resources available to you. Okay, so then we get to phase two, the epidemiological diagnosis. And so this will be maybe looking at from a broader perspective. This will be in many ways kind of your literature review. So you're looking at soccer players in general, adolescent soccer players, or construction workers and back injuries or shoulder injuries, teachers and postural issues, ergonomic issues that affect neck and back pain, whatever it might be. You once you kind of decide what your population is going to be and what areas you will target, that will inform your bigger scale epidemiological or population considerations. So you'll go to the literature and talk about adolescent soccer players generally throughout the world or throughout the country, what types of injuries are most prevalent, how this impacts players and maybe the healthcare system and so forth with construction workers. So this will help you kind of put together, along with your needs assessment and what the bigger picture literature review shows you. It will help you create objectives for your project in general. Then we get to phases 3 and 4, where you'll be planning the intervention. So you see that all of these first 4 phases, we have yet to really define a lot of the specifics. We are still planning. So a lot of this can be done, this semester or this term if you are ready. So don't feel like you need to wait if you are wanting to kind of work ahead and plan ahead. So in phase 3, behavioral environmental diagnosis, you're basically looking at, okay, so for your soccer players, maybe they don't understand the way to engage their core and use their pelvic stabilization muscles when they are cutting and changing directions. Maybe they don't understand the importance of strengthening some of those muscle groups to avoid knee injuries. Maybe with your construction workers or movers, you may be looking at the fact that they're not aware of how body mechanics work and why lifting and continually bending and so forth could put them at risk. The key point here is identifying which behavioral issues are the most likely to be changed. And so so that behavior is really education levels. Like, what are some of the most common areas that we expect our subjects to not understand that we can most likely help them with so that they end up doing well on their post-test and we're making a difference for them. And so then we look in phase 4 at some of the different areas that might be barriers. Maybe that's accessing your subject. Maybe it's logistics and schedules. Like someone brought up, a lot of workers maybe start very early in the morning, and so you as a group may need to adapt to that. Maybe if you're dealing with athletes, maybe it's gaining access to the athletes with their practice schedule and location. So those are just some of the things that may be helpful or may be barriers as you move forward. And then we get to phase 5. This usually does not really play much of a role for us because we are usually targeting a population that we already have some sort of access to. But if you, for example, if you were going to go to another entity like the Boys and Girls Clubs of Avondale, and you're going to approach that organization and say, hi, we're physical therapy students from Franklin Pierce. We'd like to speak with some of the kids that are here at the center. And so how do we do that? And they might tell you need to fill out these forms. You can come on these days. This is all the type of description that you would have in phase 5 when you write up your portfolio. Whatever, if you had to get releases signed by the subjects before they'll participate in your little project, or whatever it might be. Again, we're typically not doing anything that invasive where we're going into a company and trying to change all of their policies and procedures. But this will be the area where you would document any kinds of kind of administrative policy things where you have to access your subjects. Um, we typically don't deal with any funding or anything with these projects, so that keeps this area a little bit more simple. And then finally, we contact our subjects and schedule our educational intervention. As we said before, sometimes the pre-test, post-test happens on the same day as the intervention. Sometimes that's done separately. It all depends on a lot of logistical things. If your subjects are out of state and you're doing everything virtually, then maybe it is very easy to send them the pre-test via email or however you're contacting them. Wait a week, then conduct your intervention, via video, via Zoom call, whatever it might be, and then give them the post-test. If you're working with a group locally, then it may make sense to, if you are going at 6:30 in the morning, you may want to try to do all of that in one visit if possible, or two, and just try to shorten or minimize the number of times you have to be meeting people and have them meet you at 6:30 in the morning. So then we get to the process, impact, and outcome evaluation. So in phase 7, at the very beginning of the project, you'll have a plan. We're going to meet with our soccer players on this day or these 2 or 3 days. We're going to contact our subjects virtually in this way. And very often adjustments need to happen, and you'll just document those changes, such as we planned to go 3 times, we only went 2 because of inclement weather, or there were 2 people on the post-test who did not participate in the post-test but were part of our pre-test, so we had to adjust our reporting, whatever it might be. That's kind of the process evaluation. And then the impact evaluation, obviously the impact and outcome, you're hoping in both cases that the education level, the understanding of your subjects has increased as a result of your intervention. And so that's where you'll document those. It will be very helpful for you to look at the examples that are posted on Canvas of completed projects to see how they wrote up their portfolios and which information they included in the various phases. And then finally, we have a graph because some people love graphs. And this is just, if this helps you to kind of organize your thoughts, then fantastic. But that, in a nutshell, is the summary of Precede Proceed. And we will be, of course, talking quite a bit going forward and answering questions as they come up. Obviously, when you look at your written exam, that will include Precede Proceed. You'll want to understand the differences between the various phases. You'll want to understand, what is happening in Precede compared to what's happening in Proceed, and it should be quite easy to ace that exam. Thanks very much.